College and stuff, I was away for about 7 years or 8 years between that and Boston.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school at?
Colby Sawyer College.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, you'll have to bear with me. I've never run an official meeting before, so we'll figure it out. So, call to order, I guess. First thing on the agenda is election of officials. We're gonna need a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. So if we wanna start with chair, any nominations?
I'd like to nominate the person who's born and raised in Waldeboro. In all seriousness, I think that would be a really good place to start. I'm not from here. I grew up in Alabama in a town very much like this, but seems like there's some good history there of the recreation situation, but also as a parent
Yep.
and as a participant, I'm assuming, when you were growing up.
Yep.
So, and, as a parent of possibly future Waldeboro residents, if your children choose to stay local.
Sure. I would be welcome to that. I also, I do have a pretty serious commitment between coaching and jobs and stuff. So, if it deemed so, then I would serve as a chair, but I would not mind taking a lesser role either.
Any other nominations? A second?
I'll second.
Alright,
Karen, have that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Troy.
All right.
Will help.
Great. All right. So with that,
Writing it down.
we'll
No.
take nominations for vice chair.
I already put one person on the spot. I'm not going to put anybody else on the spot. Someone else can do that.
Well, we might as well
Go ahead.
have bookends.
No, why?
Yeah.
Is that a nomination?
I'll nominate you back.
Is there anybody that would like to volunteer for the vice chair position?
What's involved in the chairman position, vice chair position?
Uh,
Primarily
Basic.
running the meeting?
Yeah, running the meeting.
Basically, the vice chair would serve if the chair can attend a meeting for some reason.
Well, do you guys have schedules that overlap, though, if you both coach?
Potentially. I think we all do, to a certain degree.
Well, I hear crickets. So I would make a nomination as chair, as Trevor Redinger, to be the vice chair. If anybody would like to open it up to comments or a second.
I'll second.
Oh.
Hearing no comments, we'll vote. All in favor?
All right.
Passes 4, 1 abstained. All right, and then obviously the next position would be secretary, somebody that can take notes either while we're at meeting and or looking over the video and just documenting either any actions that we take or just a general.
She's very
overview.
good at that.
So you're,
Nominate Kelly.
I mean, they'd be basically bullet notes now that everything is either recorded that could be seen. So.
Yeah, so, yeah, whoever wants to be secretary would take notes, and then I could probably write up the minutes, and then we'll have to approve them at the next meeting.
Correct.
About what happened at this meeting.
I would volunteer to do
I'll
that.
second it.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
So there's
It's
been a
within
nomination.
eye.
Yep, so there's been a nomination, a second. Any discussion? No discussion, so we'll vote as Kelly Burton as secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
Just L-Y or E?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You said Burton?
Yes,
Well,
B-U-R-T-O-N.
congratulations to all of you.
Yes.
So, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments you'd like to share, Marcus, that's come your way?
No, I think those are just for anyone that's in attendance.
Okay.
Max isn't a
typ-
citizen,
yep,
so.
yep. No, citizen comments typically would be anybody that is here, and then also any comments or anything that, like, if somebody sent you an email to share or anything like that.
Okay.
Right.
Could we read the Facebook posts? We do that?
If it was directed to the department, then, you
Yep.
know, possibly if that was something you felt you deemed to share, but.
Yeah. Nope, nothing at the moment.
All right, so with that, we'll move to the third agenda item, which is the Recreation Director's Report. Do you have anything you'd like to share or report that?
It's on my desk, of course. Busy day. No, I just, co-ed softball is off and running. We're in the second week of the season there. Everything is going smoothly. Youth soccer registrations are open. Haven't got very many in yet, but usually we get that push once school starts. This meeting's happening tonight. And the annual senior citizen bus trip has been planned. I haven't opened registrations yet because I just got everything finalized on Tuesday. But they'll be going to the Maine Maritime Museum in Bath, followed up by lunch at Taste of Maine, and then swinging by Pemaquid Point Lighthouse on the way home.
When is that? Do you have a
Yeah,
date for
so
that
it's
yet?
October 9th.
Is that something that's free?
It's free for the seniors, yep. I budget so much money every year for the trip. It covers the bus and anything that they do. They're on their own for the meal.
Okay.
And then if we have room and non-residents want to go, they're welcome to. If we have the room, they would just have to pay $20, which would cover their seat on the bus.
But residents get priority.
Residents get priority.
What's the maximum of that?
We rent a 55 passenger coach bus.
Okay, so,
In the past, I asked Kyle, the former director, if he ever went, and he said he didn't because he didn't want to take up a seat.
yeah. Oh, and he would.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
But last year,
It's Kyle here?
no. So last year was my
Sorry,
first.
Kyle.
Last year was my first year. We filled the bus to 55.
Oh, wow.
Probably 3 weeks before it was supposed to go, and then over those 3 weeks it dwindled down to about 45, and then we built it back up to about 55. It was pretty full, a few seats left, and then on the day of, only about 40 people showed up.
Okay.
So that was kind of disappointing, but
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of expected. You know, there were a few illnesses and stuff.
Sure.
It's a senior citizen trip.
So when you say senior citizen, we talking people over 55, or is it 60 or 65?
Yeah.
How are you defining
I-
senior?
If they call and sign up, I don't usually ask their age,
No, I know.
but.
Which
I
is
mean,
wise, which is
yeah.
the smart
No, I'm not sure.
part,
I'm
yeah.
not sure.
If they think that, if they consider themselves a senior, then
Fine,
yeah.
go with it.
If somebody showed up and they were like 25, 30, 40, I'd probably
Question it.
question it, you know,
Sure.
but we haven't had that problem yet. But last year they went to Kennebunkport to the Bush Mansion, and they were supposed to stop there and get out and look, and the bus driver just drove right by.
Goodbye.
Rolled by slowly, and then they were going to the main mall for lunch because they wanted to do the buffet, and he pulled up next to the food court and parked it, and a lot of them said they weren't able to walk
Right.
over to the buffet.
Right, sure.
So just with those few issues, I might hop on the bus this year
Who
and just make sure everything went.
provided the transportation?
Last year it was VIP. I haven't had. Kyle always used Sear.
Yeah.
By the time I called them last year, they were booked.
Yeah.
The week, October 9th is right after Columbus Day,
Yeah.
and there's usually a couple of cruise ships that come into Portland
Yeah.
that week, and so all the buses were booked. I did book with Sear this year,
Okay.
so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a little better, but I am gonna hop on the bus just to make sure
Mm-hmm.
everything goes well. There is a senior citizen group, and usually I guess in the past, Kyle has kind of put their president in charge. She didn't go on the trip last year, so it was,
Yeah.
I didn't really have anybody in charge telling the bus driver exactly where
What
to
to-
go. He had the agenda.
Basic.
But I guess he didn't quite figure it
Senior
out.
citizen group of Waldeboro, is it
Yeah,
Waldeboro?
yep, Waldeboro.
Yeah.
They have some non-resident members, and I've worked with them, like if, obviously Waldeboro residents get priority, but if there's room for non-residents, their little group gets first priority of the non-residents, because they they help me plan the trip. I go to them and whatnot, and that's how Kyle always ran it, so I just kind of continued the
I
tradition.
think, did he meet monthly or
They meet
twice a month?
Twice a month at the VFW.
What's
Yeah.
the name of the group, do you know?
I just call them Waldeboro Senior
Okay.
Citizens.
Waldeboro, yeah, I think it is the Waldeboro Senior Citizens.
And
Yeah.
so do they take care of promotion, or do you do that?
No,
How
I
do you
do.
promote the?
I put it in the newspaper, put it up on the Facebook page, town website, and then I actually do go to their meeting and have signups right at their meeting
Yeah.
for
Okay.
them, so
Yeah.
they don't have to come in. There's usually anywhere from 20 to 40 people at those meetings, so not all of them go, but I
Right.
get a good chunk of my signups just by showing up at their meeting. So.
Would there be any benefit to doing a flyer and having that in locations around Waldeboro doctor's offices or places where
Yeah.
senior citizens might,
Yeah.
for the pharmacy,
Yeah.
Sure.
Grocery store.
farmers market
Yeah.
even?
Yep. Yeah. That would work. I haven't done it in the past, but I can definitely do it.
I'm happy to help distribute those if you could create something and
Yep.
make copies and stuff.
Not a problem.
And with youth soccer registrations, what is your attempt, or what's your plan to, is it going to the school? Is there a flyer? Is it gonna be in the school?
It'll be in the,
newsletter?
I haven't taken it to the schools yet, but this, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Get a flyer together. I usually take a flyer that goes in their go-home packet, and then in the school newsletter as well. And then it's up on the Facebook page, it's in the newspaper.
Yeah.
What are the ages?
I emailed every parent that had a child in the program last year. Gave them a heads up, and I'll do that again, probably twice.
Yep.
What's the sign?
I think I told the guy to put it in the sign. I don't know if it is.
I'll try by it.
I don't know.
I do, I do know, and again, it might be something that you'd have to talk to the school board or talk to superintendent about, but when I worked in Thomaston, I know we were fortunate enough to have a good relationship that we could distribute a flyer. At the beginning of the year, we kind of listed like the key events that somebody might be interested in. So therefore, we also collected like the child's name, email address, phone numbers. So when it came down to that, you could say, I saw that you had interest in the fall for basketball or cheerleading, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can create that list to send out an email reminder, like registration is happening. If that's something you still want to do.
Yep.
Because obviously the first day of school, parents are pretty
They get
comfortable going through the 15 pages of paper,
Yeah.
And it'll probably be the best chance for you to collect that data or get it back.
Yep.
So you could still rely on the school, but you'd also have your own
Yeah.
quote database.
Yep.
But you collect some people who you don't have in the system. Because you get,
Right. Or you have a more current email list.
right, yeah.
Right.
People change.
That'd be great for not just the soccer program, but for any of the youth sports that you're
I
gonna
think that's
be
what he's
doing.
saying.
It
Is that what you're
does, and
talking about?
yeah, and even you could go as far as adding one or two questions of what else would you like to see, or is there, or would you be willing to
that's a great
volunteer, or
idea.
would you like to lead into something? It's a chance to gather some information. It doesn't
Yep.
obviously
And for
force
fundraising,
commitment.
those would be the parents you'd want to start with.
Yeah, typically those that are vested would be the group that you'd want to.
Yep. And I put those out in every elementary school except for Warren, because they have their own program. But Friendship doesn't have a program, and Union and Washington tend to come our way more than they go to,
Yeah.
about the same as they go to Warren. So I take a big road trip when I disperse those.
Yeah, yeah.
Miller down to Friendship, up to Warren, up to Union, and then
You
over
got
to
some
Washington.
connections in friendship. you should
Yeah.
go that way.
Swing into the house for lunch on the way home.
When does the soccer start? When does the season start?
The deadline is September 10th, and then
Deadline's the 7th.
7th. But I have to report the 10th of how many teams we're gonna have, and then I think it's like the 15th or 16th would be the first games
Okay.
of September.
And the ages?
Kindergarten through 6th grade.
And is this just for Waldeboro residents only?
Nope.
No, this is
And,
for
yeah, anybody that wants to play.
primarily Lincoln County, I'm guessing, or some in
We've had some
Union?
GSB before.
Yeah.
Well, they
Yeah,
like
anybody
that.
in the local area that's
Okay.
willing to.
Warren's come and played this one.
Well, it's not really affiliated with the schools at all. I said Warren has their own programs and they put together their teams, And then we have ours, but we draw a lot of Washington and Union and Friendship kids, and then every once in a while we'll get a Nobleboro or Damascata if they don't like the program over
That's
there.
great.
So yeah, we have a pretty good draw. We run a K2, a kindergarten, first and second grade, Saturday morning clinic at the high school. So we use that. I think it's a couple hours where they get out, they get some skills and drills, and then just a little bit of games, but definitely they're not super organized games, just mostly skills and drills. And then third and fourth grade, we have co-ed teams that play against themselves and Warren. Last year, we had 3 teams and Warren had 3 teams, so there's a little 6-team league, and they get to know the rules a little more and play a little bit more of a competitive game against some other towns. And then by the time they're in 5th and 6th grade, they have the 5th and 6th grade travel league where they're playing against Thomaston, St. George,
Oh,
and
wow, okay.
Cushing and Warren and Rockland and Rockport. They have a whole season and a playoff and a championship
Yeah, trophy.
trophy that I still haven't seen. Our girls won last year. I think it's still over in Warren though.
So the 5th and 6th grade teams are not co-ed?
Some are.
Some are.
We've been lucky enough to have there is a boys league and a girls league. In the past few years, we've been lucky enough to have a boys team and a girls team. Our boys team is going to be close this year. Looking at the numbers, we have about 10 kids. And they play 9v9, so hoping we can draw a few more to play. But some of the towns, Rockport and St. George, have co-ed teams, and they would play in the boys division. But they try to split them up as much as we can if the numbers allow.
How many kids did you have last year, total? K through 6? A guesstimate?
I don't know.
You told me last
Well, you
year.
said you had 6 teams?
That was just between us and Warren we had 6 teams
I see.
in
In
the 3-4.
Oh, I see.
It's about
So what, we have
thinking
10 or 12 last year on our team?
Yeah, so it's probably like 36 at that level.
Yeah.
There'll be another 36 at the next level.
Kidding. I'd say about 36 at every level, so pretty close to 100,
100
100,
kids.
120 kids.
That's great.
Yeah,
There's bubbles that come and go.
sure.
Yeah, last year, like I said, our girls team won the 5th and 6th grade championship. They only had 2 5th graders, so they essentially graduated their whole team. And looking at the numbers, if all the girls that played last year play this year, we'll have 18 girls still in that age bracket. There's
Wow.
16 girls that are all in 5th grade.
Another good class behind that.
Yep. So,
The co-ed softball, you said it's in the 2nd week.
yes.
Is that pretty good, like, recruitment? I mean, do you have full teams?
Yeah, very full teams. I have some people call in the office trying to get on a team, and I can't get them on a team because people are you play 10 in the field, and we bat everybody. Everybody that's on the roster that's there bats, and so the teams are putting in rosters of 16, 17 people.
Wow.
So it's a lot. And
Right.
Now, is
people
this
are-
adult or is this
Yep,
youth?
it's
Okay.
adult.
And
that-
that's because of various commitments. Some,
Yeah.
if they knew they had 12 solid people that are going to be there every week.
right.
Some have 16 or 17
Right.
because they're low.
I'm miss- I'm-
They'll miss.
I'm missing my game right now. I did poor planning from the guy that assigned the meeting and made the softball schedule.
How many teams did you say there are this year?
There's 11 this year. We had 8 last year, so we brought over one of the Rockland men's team, recruited some girls and put in a co-ed team. We gained another Camden co-ed team, and we had a local kid come up with some friends, and put a team in, which was tough too because he's a young kid, and the league you have to have an average team age of 33. So I take all the rosters and add up their ages and divide it by how many people they have, and it has to be 33. If it's 32.5 and someone questions it, they have to forfeit. So
Wow.
it keeps it.
32 or over, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Keeps you from having some 20-year-old, hot
Yeah.
stars going up
So-
against.
well, yeah.
Someone like
It's
me.
kind of
Or you go find that 95-year-old that can still play.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Gotta swing the bat.
the team that I'm on, it's actually when I joined the team, we were the oldest team. I joined it I don't know, 4 years ago, so it was like 24, and I was the youngest kid on the team, and we were the oldest team in the league, and since then we keep getting people that retire, and we keep bringing in 20-year-olds, and so our age is actually getting closer.
Nice.
So it's kind of funny.
What's the name of the league?
Just the Waldeboro co-ed softball. So we play at the high school, middle school softball fields, and we've used Foster Field in the past, but that was just renovated by the Little League. So we're using Sukforth Field, which is Waldeboro, the town owns, this year, but we'll go back to Foster next year. It's a little more suitable for us softball.
Okay, so I think, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Marcus, but I think it may be benefit for some of the people at the table to kind of go over, like, not over your job description, but just a overview of your year, like offerings, like, but what do you guys do in the spring? What do you do in the fall? And
Yeah.
some of the key tasks. I know, but
Right.
I think some people here at the table, and maybe even some people listening at home, aren't really aware of all the things that you do, and hopefully us do
Yep.
over the time. But I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
So if you even as just in generality of what you do.
Okay. So, all right. So we've pretty much covered the fall. So co-ed softball will wrap up September 29th, September 30th are the playoffs. That'll wrap up on a Sunday. That next week after that is the senior trip. And then we'll move, and then youth soccer will wrap up middle to end of October. After that, I tend to have a little bit of a down period. I'm hoping to fill that this year with some, maybe some adult pickup basketball or something. We did that in the spring, and we had a good turnout. And I had been asked in the past, but it didn't work out to do it. The Waldeboro Baptist Church has a big league that they run, men's league. So some of the guys were looking for a place to play some pickup before that started to kind of get warmed up for the season. So maybe doing something like that at Miller School. I tried last year around that time. I tried to do a pickup soccer night in the gym, and didn't get anybody. I had one person show up I ran 3 weeks. I went, and one different person showed up each of the 3 weeks. So we canceled that. In the past, before I got here, there was a cheering program. From what I understand, basically all the coaches we had here in Waldeboro kept leaving and going to Warren. Now Warren has a really great program for youth cheering. I've talked to the high school varsity cheerleading coach about it, and she's kind of said, I've asked her, like, who can I get to coach here in Waldeboro? I'd love to get the program going again, just so it could be more convenient for Waldeboro residents. And she said, all the coaches in the area that are qualified and are all over in Warren, and it's a great program, so I'd love to see the girls keep going over there. So I've kind of let that go. We tried to run just a tumbling class last year, but we had some issues with the coach and getting gym time, and so that was canceled too. Over the winter, we have an ice rink, portable ice rink that I put up behind 80 Gray. That's a full-time job. I think it was open for skating probably 2 or 3 days out of all last winter. Every time I would get it clear, it would snow, and then I'd go to publicize it, and it would snow again. And I'd go out there with the snow blower and try to snow blow it off or shovel it off. It's a pretty good. It's
Almost 2 full courts. Right?
yeah, it's 100 and something feet long and 20, 30, 40 feet wide. So it's a lot to shovel. I got the snow blower out there and got it clear. But I've learned, and I think we can get that going a little bit better this year. But we did have to throw the liner away. The liner was leaking. So I would be looking at having to buy a new liner if that was something we'd want to get set up again.
Can it be put in any more prominent area?
That's been the discussion.
Could it be put down there at Sylvania?
I don't know about that one because it's not town-owned property, and there's
that would be the hesitance.
It has. I know from talking to our finance lady that runs all the insurance stuff, it has to be on town-owned property. We've looked at some other places. Maybe the problem is finding a place that is accessible in the wintertime.
And flat.
And flat. The rec fields, is flat, but it's not paved, it's not plowed out in the wintertime, and that's not something our plow truck drivers have time to really take on. They're pretty stretched as it is. They've talked about flattening a spot on the front lawn out here, but the concerns there were, people showing up to skate and parking in places that they shouldn't and causing problems for the EMS
Yeah.
and fire to get out. But yeah, I would love to get it out. I would love to get it out from behind 80 Gray or just somewhere where it's visible. I see there's a whole crew over in Damascotta that take care of theirs.
Yeah.
And it's used all the time. And I think just because it's out and visible, people are willing to help out and getting out there to skate. I think we probably had 3 or 4 people skate on our rink all last year, which is very, like, I know it wasn't open a lot, but it was just,
That's a lot
it
of
was a
work.
lot of work for
For
4 kids to
Yeah.
go skating. So I think if we do it this year, before I even buy a liner, I'd want to get a group of people that would be willing to say,
Are
we're going to
there
help with
Boy
this.
Scouts or anything that need a project? Because they used to
Yeah, maybe.
do that. I don't know if we even have Boy Scouts here.
I'm not sure either. I know there's some around. I don't know if they're all in Waldoboro, but I know there's a few
Because they
around.
used to do community projects, you know, for
Yeah.
their Eagle Scout or whatever it was.
Just getting a group of skaters together that want to use it and would be willing to help out, just take care of it a little bit, would be a
Yeah.
huge help. Because I can't remember exactly, but I think the liner is over $1,000.
Yeah, I would think so.
It would be ashamed to buy another liner for $1,000 and then have it not be used.
The thing that Troy was mentioning about doing a form, that if you can get permission to put it into the packets,
Yep.
that would be one of the things you could put on there. At
Definitely.
the very least, you've got an email list that you can set up and send email blast out.
Right.
Rink is open.
Yeah.
Because my kids are grown now, but when they were younger, during winter break, I would die for something for
Right.
them to do outside of the house for a while, so.
Yeah. And I know the few people that did use it thanked me a ton when I saw them up there.
Right.
They loved it. It was just, and it wasn't well known. People at the end of the year were like, oh, I didn't even know it was open. I was like, yeah, because I didn't really advertise it, because every time I got it clear, it would snow again. Or it would be 50 for 3 days and it was a puddle of water.
I think
I
that
mean, I
was
would
the
say
trouble with Damascotta
Go ahead.
last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in all fairness, like, I think probably most people at home know, but your department consists of how many employees?
Me.
Yeah.
So obviously, communities, just using where I work in Brunswick, we have 3 different rinks, but we have about 4 people that pretty much are dedicated to that, not necessarily full time, but every night they're out either cleaning or spraying, and it's quite a process.
Yeah. And that was,
So I think that would be something that we'd have to look at, one, if the location's great, 2, is it the greatest utilization of your time?
Right.
If you think it's only gonna be open 5% of the time.
yeah. I know
But,
last year
and
was
I'm
just
not saying it's not,
miserable.
or is it something that's very valued by the town and the select committee to say,
What about an
we
ice
need to
hockey
put
team?
some help to do that,
Right.
like if it's
I know
from
they really
from
push-
Public Works or whoever it is.
Yeah, they
But
really pushed me to get it out because the whole thing, I think it's about a $5,000 unit, and it was all donated by one lady to the town. So they really wanted me to. Kyle put it out for a few years, and then the liner got worn, and then I patched it up a little bit, but it didn't really work that well.
What about ice hockey? I mean, informal ice hockey.
Yeah, if
It's-
the rink's out there, they're welcome to use it however they want to.
It's hard to schedule it though with the weather.
Right.
You can't really schedule a league or games or whatnot because
Yeah.
it's all dependent upon the weather.
Yeah,
if we
but we
s-
could have if I had it running, I could have like a pickup
Yeah.
night or something.
Or beginning, learning. It doesn't seem like hockey's very big right here.
Yeah.
But it's, my grandchildren in Colorado were big time.
Right. Yeah, and that was the other problem as far as cleaning it. I built a homemade Zamboni and was gonna take care of it, and the pipes in 80 Gray froze and burst, so I didn't have any access to water to take care of
pretty
it.
hard.
Can't really Zamboni without water.
The fire department came and filled it up, but it was they fill it so fast it freezes. a little uneven, and I didn't have any way to smooth it out, so it was what it was.
So you have, obviously that's a big part. What other winter activities or wintertime stuff, and then going to the spring?
Yeah, so winter, it was that. I have K2 basketball. That's another like Saturday clinic, kindergarten through second grade basketball. We do it at Miller School. We've had upwards of 30, 40 kids that show up, and we do skills and drills for a couple hours on Saturday mornings for a few months, January to February, March. Once they get into third and fourth grade, they start Madomic Valley Youth Basketball, which is run by the high school coaches and stuff. I go to their meetings and talk about scheduling and stuff with the gyms, but I don't have a lot to do with Madomic Valley Youth Basketball. They kind of run their own thing, and they do a pretty good job, and that runs all the way through sixth. And then most of the sports I run through sixth. Once they get into middle school, all the youth sports I run through the schools. Last year we did start. We called it the Waldoboro Rec Ski Club. It was more of a Waldoboro Rec ski ticket discount. So I got set up with the Camden Snow Bowl. If I brought a group of 10 or more, which I don't think I ever did, they would give me discount tickets, and we would go, I think it was Wednesday nights, over and ski for a few hours. So the people that wanted them, residents, non-residents, they could come in and pay for their lift ticket, and then I would put the order in for the discount passes at the Snow Bowl, and then we'd have a leader show up, and we had a volunteer leader. She'd show up and get the passes from the booth, and I'd give her a check to give to them, and then she'd disperse them to all the people that went. But we didn't offer any transportation or anything like that. But they could get discounted tickets, lessons, and rental equipment, which was great. We had quite a few different people take advantage of that, but I think we averaged about 7 or 8 people a week. But I didn't make anything off that. What the Snow Bowl charged me for the passes was what I gave them to the residents at. I think it was like $15 a ticket.
That's great.
So that was something new that we started. Once K2 basketball wraps up, Little League takes off, and Madomic Valley Little League is its own organization, but I think it's kind of as part of my job, I'm required to help however I see fit with Little League. So I do a lot of their field maintenance. I take care of they use Sukforth Field, which is town owned, so I maintain that, and then they use Foster Field, which is owned by the Little League, but I do help out when I have time, taking care of that as well. And then they use 80 Gray as well, the Philbrook Field, so I help maintain those fields. I do their schedule. That's one of my biggest undertakings with Little League. I think last year there were 34 different teams across 6 or 7 divisions that I have to schedule and make sure there's no double games, and it takes me like 4 days where I just lock my office door and go to town on the schedule.
And I forget how many kids, that's just, I want to say it was like 200 or something in Waldoboro.
Yeah, 34,
Yeah.
34
Friendship.
teams has got to be.
Yeah, some of those teams are from other towns.
Yeah, okay.
Camden brings over some softball teams.
Or Lincoln, Lincoln County sometimes.
Sometimes.
Some years,
Hope, Rockport area brought over some baseball teams, but a lot of it's just Madomic Valley Little League. So there's Waldoboro Friendship is combined, and then Warren, Washington, and Union. So I do all the scheduling for all of the fields in all of those towns.
And the registration support
And
for Waldoboro Friendship, right?
Yeah, I take all the registrations and money for Waldoboro Friendship.
What do the rec directors at the other towns do to help out with Little League? Or is that
they take
primarily
care of their
There's no
facilities, but there is only Warren. Warren has a rec director.
And so it's just the two of you in that area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Union, Washington have like town representatives that are on the Little League board that take their registrations and stuff.
But not staff?
but they're
Okay.
not staff. And then so I take that. I help out with tryouts. I do a lot of the Little League's paperwork, along with their secretary. She does a ton.
Secretary
Or
doesn't cover it.
vice president, whatever
She
is.
runs it.
Yeah. So yeah, I do quite a bit with that. That pretty much takes up all my spring. And then I think last year in the spring we did do the adult pickup basketball. That was right before Little League started.
Getting back to the Little League.
Yeah.
Do you guys do anything with like T-ball, or is it
Yeah,
incorporated into,
T-ball is Madonna Little League as well.
okay.
So I schedule their games.
Except in Warren. Warren does their own T-ball program.
Right.
They do,
Yeah.
okay.
But I schedule the games for.
For the Monomic teams.
Yeah, so Waldeboro, Friendship, Union, Washington, and I handle all the practice schedules as well. So whenever teams want to practice, they call me and I find them a field and mark it down. So it's a lot of scheduling,
Oh, yeah.
but it prepared me well. The soccer, the 5th, 6th soccer, because we play against other towns. I do the schedule for that as well. It's a lot easier. Like 8 teams, 10 teams instead of 30 something.
Get a pattern, then go with it.
Yep. So that one's a lot easier. But I don't mind scheduling. I've always liked that stuff. It's better than some of the other stuff. The one soccer, the St. George rec director, he's in charge of finding referees for, like, we all have our own separate jobs. And I'd rather do the schedule than have to try to
He's a
find
referee.
yeah, he's gonna do some of them. But yeah, so then once the Little League wraps up, I have summer rec program. That's 5 weeks of summer rec camp at Miller School. I hire a staff for that. I have a leader, and this year I had 3 counselors. They play games and arts and crafts at Miller School most of the days of the week, and then usually once or twice a week they'll do an off-site field trip. They've been, this year I think they went bowling at All Play. They went over to Flagship Cinemas for Camp Flagship. It's a free movie.
How many kids approximately? Sorry.
We had 30-something kids this year, close to 20 to 30 kids this year.
What are the ages?
Going into 1st to going into 7th, because
Okay.
it's the summer. So it would have been whoever was in K to 6 the year before.
Okay.
We don't open it up to whoever's gonna be in kindergarten the next year, because they haven't had any school
Sure.
experience yet.
Socialization.
Like I went to school for health and phys ed, and I student taught, and I taught in kindergartens, but it was in January. So when I say, hey, kids, line up on the line, they did it. And when I got hired, my first teaching job was part-time. I was up in Washington at Prescott, and first day of phys ed with kindergartners, I said, all right, line up here, and it took 20 minutes to get them lined up. So yeah, so just having that 1 year of school is enough. And it's a pretty laid-back camp. They play a lot of games in the gym. It's when I couldn't find a leader last year, and I ran it, so knowing my past, it was pretty much 3 hours of phys ed.
They went home tired.
They went home tired. My parents loved me.
You said going into the 7th grade?
Going into 7th, yeah.
Okay.
So.
And how
then-
long does that run?
5 weeks
5
from 9 to 1. So it's only a half day. But
They bring their own lunch.
nope, it's provided.
Perfect.
It's
That's
not
excellent.
Healthy Lincoln County provides. They have summer meals sites
That's
all over the
so
county,
good. Yep.
and so the breakfast and lunch are provided.
That's great.
They can bring their own if they want to, but there's always a meal there. So that's great, and it works out well that Miller School is actually one of the kitchen sites. A lot of the places are summer meal sites, but they get their meals from either the Y or Miller. So it's nice to we have the kitchen right at our facility, so it works out well for us. But yeah, I think we averaged about 15 kids, 12 to 15 kids a day, but there were probably 25 different kids, which was up from last year, but as a whole, numbers have been down since I've been hired. I know when Kyle ran it, sometimes they got up closer to 30 30 to 40 different kids. I don't know why that is, but I'm trying to build it back up the best I can.
Well, we don't
So-
have as many young families moving in, and the kids are getting older, and they're not
Yeah.
being replaced by younger children, so
Yeah,
that's probably part of it.
part of it. I know they had a big group of older kids the year before I was there that they weren't all sixth, seventh graders that transitioned out, but they were older. But yeah, they do different field trips as well. They do those. They go on a hike over at Dodge Point Nature Walk, and then this year we used Wiscasset Rec, and they went to the pool over at Wiscasset Rec
nice.
every Tuesday, which was great. They have a shallow pool, and it has some different water features, and they had a lot for the kids to do. In the past, last year, I just kind of kept the schedule the same, and Kyle had been using the Rockport Y, and they just gave us 2 lanes of their pool, and the kids would go over and swim, but there wasn't a whole lot. A lot of the younger kids, if they couldn't pass the swim test, they were standing in the shallow end.
Yeah.
And I was going to go back there again this year, and they were doing renovations and didn't have room. So I called Wiscasset and was able to get in over there, and I plan on going back to Wiscasset for as long as I can, because it was a lot better experience for the kids. They had a lot more fun. Over at the Y, they'd be swimming, and you'd have 20, 30 minutes left to swim, and kids are getting out because they're cold and didn't want to do it. This one, we're dragging kids out of the pool.
That's good.
So, yeah. Then we have a fire and EMS day where the fire trucks come over, and
Oh, neat.
they show them all the trucks, and then they play some water games. And then the last day of camp, we have like a field day. So,
Sounds
yeah.
like a great program.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's just Waldeboro residents?
Or, yeah, the Waldeboro residents,
French?
or non.
Okay.
The non-residents pay like $10, $20 more a week. So that's probably our biggest program.
How do they find out about that program? Because that sounds excellent. And to
Same.
have only 20, 30 kids.
Yeah, I think it's the same as what I do for everything else. I put it in the paper, I put it in the schools, I put it on my Facebook page, up on the sign. I put it everywhere I can. I think 9 to 1, a half-day program is very hard for some parents.
Yeah.
They need full-time daycare, but to make it a full-time program is a huge commitment for me.
Yeah.
It's gonna up things a lot, and I lose about $4,000 a year on that program. What I take in for registrations doesn't begin to cover how much the program costs.
Is there a sliding scale fee for the payment of it for people who can't afford?
We offer scholarships basically on a no questions asked basis. If they say they need a scholarship, I say, okay, how much? Like residents pay $40 a week.
Okay.
Non-residents I think was $60, and I upped that my first year. It was at $25.
Wow.
But that was the first year that the minimum wage went up, so I just tried to narrow the gap a little bit. And I don't know if that's why people stopped coming. I don't know. But
I wouldn't think
Yeah.
that minimum amount would
yeah,
be a
so
concern.
at $40 a week with I don't know 20, 30 kids, that was
You can't get daycare for that price.
no, you
That's
can't.
right.
So,
But it is only a half day.
yeah.
But
So it's-
That's a challenge.
but to go
Yeah, it is.
But to go full time, I'd have to. It would double how much I have to pay my staff. It would double the activities that I'm doing, and if I don't get the kids to show up, I could end up losing $8 to $10
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah.
So it's, but I don't know. It's something I've thought about a lot. The Rockland rec director, I've talked to him. Well, I guess he's whatever the Rock Coast Y now, but he runs a similar program, but it's all day. They even offer before and after, but he has like different shifts for his counselors. But they're full with 50 kids every day.
Yeah.
And I know that's Rockland, it's not Waldeboro, but just where it's, if parents can drop their kids off and get them after work, I'm wondering if that would bring the numbers up. But
Yeah.
it's a lot more risk, has a lot more work. Not that I'm scared of the work, but
Right.
No, but there's a fiscal, but I keep going back to what Troy had said. I mean, that type of information would be critical to what you're talking about doing. If you could get this kind of form, can we maybe talk about how, at some point before we leave tonight, talk about how we can get that done? Because school
Yeah,
starts
I mean,
next
I
week,
could, I
right?
could go over,
Yeah.
you know, in generalities, and then we could talk about it off
Yeah.
camera or whatever, like,
The
dig them down a
superintendent
little
is
bit.
also our neighbor, so.
Yeah.
So.
No,
right.
and I think, again, obviously, in the world of today, where information and all that great and how you can dissect it, I think it's important, maybe for the three of you that are somewhat new to the community or the area, is how it's kind of like the history, and I'll just share it so I can give you a little bit of break, Marcus, but, like I said before, I was the director in Thomaston, again, similar, you know, a little bit smaller than Waldeboro, but again, to be able to be part of, like, you have your school district, so you have all these different towns that come into a same school district, which obviously we have Menominee Valley, so which makes up the Warren and the Washington Union Friendship, putting them all together. So some programs like basketball are taken care of kind of from that umbrella.
Yeah,
And
football.
then there's, football and all those great things. And then there's others like the youth soccer, where it's more of a generalized regional event where it goes from Rockport, Rockland, Thomaston, St. George, and all those directors or stipend people or leaders, you know, they all have different hats in their town, come together and they divvy up the positions of who schedules and who does the officials and all that great type stuff. So based on the size of our town, you know, we don't have enough kids in some sports to run their own dedicated individual league, and the trends nationally are unfortunately not in favor of youth sports and youth activities. There's more kids doing either more dormant stuff or other activities.
Yep.
So they're not getting out
Yep.
and doing those things, just like, you know, when I was kids, and somebody else could say there was probably 8 teams in Waldeboro Little League and you didn't have to go out anywhere, you know, but
Even when I played.
even up and down the coast, you know, even larger communities like where I work, we're partnering with the community next to us to make sure we have more than 3 teams in a league, because it's not really a league. So those are some of the challenges he has. The only other thing I would say maybe would be beneficial is to talk about your budget piece and how, like, I think I understand how it works, but obviously there's the town budget, and then there's your programs and your charge or your program budget, and just general, like, how that works for you. And
Yeah, so that's another thing I do in the spring, is get my budget together. Basically, I've followed what Kyle has done in the past, but most of it is, my budget consists of my salary, porta potties at the different facilities, and then field maintenance stuff like the turfus for Bagley Field, the weed killer spray. Or I have to legally I cannot spray for weeds. It has to be done by a professional company, so I have to pay them. So I put that money in the budget. The senior trip goes in the budget, and then just anything else that might need to be done. If I don't get that liner this year, that's a bigger item that I might put in the budget if that's what people want. So that's my budget.
So what are we talking dollars and cents wise? Ballpark.
For my budget, I think it was at right around $70,000 this year.
Total, with everything.
that includes
Everything.
your salary.
That includes
includes
my
your
salary,
salary,
health benefits,
Health
and
benefits
everything. So yeah, I mean, yeah, most of it is right around. Most of it is field maintenance, porta potties, senior trip, and my salary. And then I have an enterprise account, which I inherited from Kyle, the past director. I'm assuming when he got it, there was probably not a lot in there, and he's kind of built it up over the years. So all the registration money that comes in goes into the enterprise account. Any donations, stuff like that. And then I purchase equipment and small things out of that account. So last year I upgraded some of the soccer balls for our youth soccer program. I bought them out of there. T-shirts or uniforms for the kids, that comes out of the enterprise account. Any kind of day-to-day stuff. I had to buy 2 new sandbags for the soccer goals to hold them in place. That came out of there. I have one porta potty that's not budgeted for because Little League pays for it for half the year and I pay for it for the other half. So that came out of there.
Which one's that? Soup one?
Yeah, I think. I can't remember. I think actually it is in the budget this year. Last year I didn't. It was, you know what one it was? It was Bagley.
Right, because we had Lincoln for a while.
Yeah, because Lincoln Academy used Bagley Field, which is at the Waldeboro Rec Complex, as their home field while theirs was being renovated, and so they paid for the porta potty to be there all year, even though they only used it for a few months. And then when I took over, it was the first year they stopped. We still had the porta potty there all year, but I didn't think to budget for it. I just continued
Sure,
what it was before, so I paid for that out of the enterprise account. And but this year I budgeted for it because I knew they weren't going to be back.
So the enterprise account, just to clarify, is an account that takes in revenue and is kept aside for these types of special activities?
Yeah, it's kind of everything that's not budgeted. It takes in all my revenues and that pays for everything that's not budgeted, basically.
Okay, and at the end of the year, does that get forwarded to the next year, applied to the budget?
No.
Or is that
No,
kept
it's
separate?
completely
It
separate.
just rolls.
It continues over and
Keeps-
over
like
in
a-
time. It's not
roll.
affected
Yeah.
by tax,
Yeah.
implications.
Yeah. So
Could it be attacked? Yes, but, in theory, the benefit of it is to be able to
Yeah.
carry over
So it's like a
and either
rolling
build
account.
it.
it's a rolling account, and I have programs that make money. Co-ed softball, youth soccer, those bring in usually a couple thousand each a year. Between team registrations, and then they don't require a lot. Last year I bought some soccer balls, and I have to buy like the co-ed softball bats and balls, but for the most part I'm making money on those programs. And that kind of offsets the money I lose on summer rec because my staff, the buses, the trips, that all comes out of the enterprise account. That's not budgeted for at all. So the $2,000 to $4,000 I make off soccer and summer and softball are lost for summer rec, so it kind of equals out.
Break even.
Yeah, and then some other programs help bounce it back a little bit. K2 basketball brings in a little bit. It's not a big money maker, but I don't have to buy a lot. You get the kids a $6-7 T-shirt and a medal. So I know you're spending $10 on the kids, and they're paying $25 to play. So,
And I think it's important to also know that, some of those programs, like you said, the positive programs are going to help offset the programs that struggle or are,
Right.
It just has a down year. And then it's also, as you build that account, you could buy specialty items or
Right.
some sort of
Right.
enhancement that you wouldn't ask the taxpayers to have to cover.
Right.
Which is, I think it's important to know, like, you're not just building up this bank account to have. It's
It's not a slush fund.
It's
Right.
designed and dedicated for
Yeah.
recreational use, whether it be programs or
Right.
implementing something
so
that helps.
yeah. So far, Kyle gave it to me with a certain amount in it that I probably will never forget, and I've been trying to keep it right around there or build it up since. I think it's down a little bit right now because we just finished summer rec, and not all my softball and soccer money aren't in yet, but it's stayed pretty close. And I try to. There's a way in my program I can look at reports to see. I looked the other day, like, where am I? My very first day in office to today, I can tell how much money each program's brought in, how much money's lost, and then it gives me a figure at the bottom right. And since I've been hired, I was in the positive, so I was happy with that.
So I think that, just to kind of move things on a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we've gone over, kind of overview of what the rec department is currently.
Yep.
You kind of gave a little overview of the budgeting process and how your budgets work. And then obviously as we go from meeting to meeting or whatever we determine that's important for the agenda or to help you, we'll put those items on there and we can dig down deeper. There's obviously no old business being the first meeting
Yeah.
of this rec committee.
I have an old business item.
Oh, man.
Old 80 Gray. What's going on?
Well, that's if you
Is that down
discuss our charge from the select board is the
Okay.
next one.
All right.
Yeah, so
All right.
I'm hoping that you have that because I don't have it exactly, but to
Yeah.
discuss the charge from the select board.
So I didn't write it down, but basically our charge from the select board is to research and survey the need/want for a community center in Waldeboro? And if it is needed or wanted, can we afford it? And if we can afford it, where should it be? Kinda. So that was kind of the packet I handed out. Back when the Waldeboro Rec Complex was built, the two fields, Sukforth and Bagley, those were only step one of the process. Step two was a walking trail that kind of got skipped over, and step three was the community center. From what I understand, talking to people, I think the ball fields ended up costing in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and it took a working effort between the town. Kyle was the rec director then, and the Madomic Valley Community Foundation. The Madomic Valley Community Foundation raised the money and worked together with Kyle and the town to design and build the ball fields. And from what I understand, to raise that $300,000 to $400,000, it took about 5 years. And they were able to create the ball fields that we have now, which are excellent. But when they got done, that was just step one, and I think they decided to kind of take a break or were burnt out a little bit. You might be able to elaborate.
Yeah, it also coincided with around 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when everybody, when the market dropped,
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't have a lot of extra,
Right.
Yeah.
disposable income, if you will.
Right.
To, support a lot of different things, being obviously that project was very nice to come to fruition. But to go to the next phase, it all takes money, and you can only go back to the well so many times. And when everybody's hurting, it's really difficult.
Right.
So, I mean, it would be nice if we could muster up that enthusiasm, but I think we have to certainly determine whether or not we have a true need. And I don't know if I've heard mixed stories right now about 80 Gray, and there was somebody that was actively looking at it, but from my perspective, that horse left the barn a long time ago. I think, we gotta look at something that, if we do, that would be, beneficial to all. Not only just the kids, but to our community in general.
Absolutely.
Seniors as well as,
Yes.
families. But anyways, I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Just
Go
quickly,
ahead.
in terms of 80 Gray, I can say right now that there are two people in town who are looking at it, but there's no offers or anything on the table, so as I say, just
Right.
if you want to do anything with it, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of heard, but,
Yeah,
it'd be nice to see, whatever.
it'd be nice for, no one's put a bid down if that's
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah. So so these concept drawings and plans were for a community center at the ball fields on West Main Street. I don't have the exact numbers, but from what I've heard, it was around a $3 to $4 million project.
Back then.
Back then in 2008. And it took 5 years to raise $400,000. So it seemed like a daunting task, and it just, like you said, there was bad timing. So these are still around. I still have all the architectural stuff for that. They also, on that site, I don't know if all of you have been to the property, but you drive in and there are two baseball fields there with a driveway that goes around them. And those take up about half of the property. But on the left side of those fields is a swamp. And then there's a field on the other side, which is where they had originally planned for this. And they were looking at a lot of money. It was gonna take the DEP intrusion to level 3, which it was a lot of money to just get across the little swamp.
Well, they get.
Well, yeah,
they get-
once you make, if the DEP was to, say, approval to do that, you then have to find other property that could then be benefited from
Right.
DEP.
Right.
That would need to be protected on the other side. So
Right.
it comes almost like a double purchase.
Right.
Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's,
So-
Right.
that's does present a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Is that town land?
Yes.
The whole
Yeah.
thing?
Yes. And we have looked into it. There might be other ways around. The driveway goes around Bagley and stops right by the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
The original plan was to continue that driveway up.
Up the hill there.
There might be ways of getting right-of-ways or other access points to that top half of the property, so we wouldn't have to continue the driveway across the swamp.
Right.
I'd have to look into that a whole lot more, but from what little bit we've looked into it, it might be possible. If we need a community center and we want it to be there. There are other options in town. My personal opinion, I like this the best, but
Sure.
that's kind of our charge as a committee, is to figure out what would
What are
work
the
best.
other options?
Well, it could be 80 Gray, or if nobody buys it, what was it, last January? Ish, the select board said that they were gonna aggressively market 80 Gray building for a year. If it didn't sell within the year, they were gonna knock it down. So there is a possibility that once it's knocked down, we could use that
Use that location.
location.
Is that a big enough location?
Well, it would depend. I mean, we're
I think
kind
so.
of putting cart before horse here. We don't know yet if the community
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
a community center.
But-
So does
Yeah.
the board expect for us to do surveys? Do they want us to do questionnaires? How are they leaving it up to
Again, I
us?
can't speak for the board, but it would be my assumption when starting a project like this, and the community, I'm sorry for forgetting the name, but
Yeah.
originally had done surveys of such. You know, you can pay professional companies
Yeah.
to do it. We've done it in others, but I don't see the appetite maybe for the town to spend 10 to 20,000 to have an outside group to do it. So
Right.
you would have to then kind of come up with as a group of volunteers, and maybe solicit others from other committees or other that have that expertise or willingness to come up with that tool to determine what those steps are. And I don't think that's something we're going to be able to determine tonight, but it'd be something that we need to set up to discuss in the meetings of how we could get to that point where we open or create a tool that surveys.
Well, we have an election coming up on November 6th. Can't we table?
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing too
I mean-
is there's so many communities in Maine that have had to go through the same thing. Those tools are out there.
Yeah.
And, if we can make it's the same thing like looking at some of these buildings, going to different sites and seeing what's out there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, I guess is what I'm saying. But we gotta get a pulse. Is there an appetite for doing something? And do we have to bite off the whole apple? Can we do something in steps, or in phases, like the Community Foundation wanted to do way back when? I don't know if the economics are any better than they were. Hopefully they are, but raising money's tough. And you gotta use anything and everything to do it. Whether you do dances, whether you do a whole host of things. But
Sure.
do people really want it?
Right. I mean, I think obviously that would be the most logical thing, is to find that tool, either if it's begged, borrowed, or whatnot, or in slightly altered, to get the true pulse of what the appetite is, and then from those results kind of determine, okay, this is what people think they could spend, or this is what they could afford, or what they would be willing to pay. I
Right.
mean, those are still, there's no commitments there, but I think what a lot of people forget, or like, once you build it, there's that fee, and then it's the actual maintenance and
Maintenance,
maintaining and hiring
Thing.
and making sure all that stuff. And I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but it's got to be very well thought out, so it's not then turned back. And that will be, from living in this town and in any town, the fear is that it'll get thrown back to the taxpayer and fall on their burden, and they may not use it.
Right.
So you'd have to come up with some sort of logical plan or explanation of how that would work. Because you're looking at a department that has a budget of $70,000, and you'd pay that probably pretty much to just have a supervisor in the building, to be
Yeah.
open 12 hours a day,
Right.
5 days a week. So that's just kind of puts things in scope, not including all electrical and all the other great stuff, but doesn't mean that program fees and activities and stuff, you know, I don't want to short sight it, but those are the things that I think the select board would want to see. You know, one, appetite, two, what the costs are, what the costs of operation are, and then kind of go forward to see if that's logical. You know, from the other side of standpoint is, you know, there are foundations, the All Fallen, there's community partnerships you could do with a hospital. There's other avenues that could, to bring in some of that chunk of money and possibly create some rental fees into it. But they're gonna wanna either see matching, and they're gonna wanna see all that stuff before they're gonna invest, just like a normal investor wanting to invest in a company. They're gonna wanna know there's commitment and there's an actual plan, so.
How this committee kind of came to be was kind of, in the last year, was kind of a one-man attempt at renovating 80 Gray and turning that into a community center. And the select board ended up saying no. I think they didn't have enough data, but at the same time, I don't think they truly believed 80 Gray would end up being feasible. It is pretty far gone after being abandoned for the last 10 years. But I know the one thing he did do was he did survey the town, and it came back overwhelmingly yes in favor of a community center. But the question, I believe, was, do you favor a community center in Waldeboro? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, do you favor paying an extra $1,000 a year in your taxes to pay for it? And then
That'd be a different answer.
might be a different answer. So if we are going to do some type of survey that way, it would be good to have a good plan and some numbers at people,
Sure.
so they can make an educated decision. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously that's a pretty good charge, you know, and I don't disagree with that charge, but I also think it's important that we look at what we can currently do with what we have, as well as utilizing the schools and utilizing some of the community teachers' specialties and type of stuff to take the burden off of you, so you're actually directing people that can help, or somebody that has experience in marketing, or somebody that really loves computers and wants to tackle the website or social media. Like, there are those people with those expertises that could help, you know, do things, I wouldn't say better, but easier for you.
Yeah.
And that's their specialty, you know, and I think those people exist, or creating or fostering relationships with the school or the current principal or whoever it is to utilize the gyms and the fields, or, you know, again, and I'm not saying in a negative way. I think that's just things that can make things both better for the community and easier for you, you know, to actually make real growth. Because I think you're going to have to show some of that, like, if you want to build a building, well, what's going to go in that building as far as programs? Well, we already have this many kids for this, and this,
Right.
and we utilize this space so we could have an after-school program that's going to go from 3 o'clock, and the kids are going to get bused over. You know, some of those things that, like, besides just having a building, you need to know kind of what's the life and growth of it. Is it going to have a senior center? Is it going to have a community room that people can rent out? And those type of aspects that would want to obviously help offset some of the costs, and even better, just create a benefit to the town.
Right.
And could we have an anchor tenant? You know, like Head Start or someone like that you get cash flow coming in. That was one of the things that was brought up when we were talking about Peter Gray at the time. You know,
Right.
so you know, if there's a couple of ways of skinning the cat, so to speak,
Correct.
it's a big one,
So,
sure.
I think we've got the charge, you know, I added my sense. I don't know if I want to open up for discussion, anybody else, anything else they see, you know, why they joined the committee, what they would like to see, or, you know, we can, you know, keep it somewhat brief. And then after that, we'll kind of just go over some topics that we'd like to put together for the next agenda, or some action items. So, you know, and I know one of those, I think, is trying to come up with the piece for, you know, polling kids or letting kids know about activities. But does anybody else have anything they'd like to share as far as, you know, what you'd like to gain out of this experience as well? I mean, obviously you're doing a service for the community. That's why I'm assuming why you signed up to come here. So.
Well, I just see that, tennis for kids is a great sport, starting with age 7 or 8. And there's probably a lot of retired people around that could maybe teach it. And I think that's something. And the number one growing sport in America for adults is pickleball.
Yep.
Yes.
And,
Which I'm addicted to.
Oh,
Awesome.
there's, tennis courts can be converted indoor for pickleball. And
Yep.
those are inexpensive sports to get revenue, get teaching up and going for kids for that.
Yep.
So I don't know whether, also just throw this out, that can the Little League field or a ball field, be used for the ice rink where there would be parking?
He was saying they're not plowed.
But they're not
Those-
plowed.
The fields are not
Oh,
plowed.
all of them aren't?
No.
Oh.
None of them.
None of
Yes.
them.
Fields
Yeah.
are plowed.
The only ones, we own the Philbrook Field behind AD Gray, which is basically where it was. It was up behind the school,
Right.
but same location. The only other fields that we own are Sukeforth and Bagley, the rec complex on West Main Street, and that gets locked up in the end of October, November, and it's not plowed or anything during the winter. But it is open. Yeah, I mean, and it's open and flat, but.
I think badminton or volleyball or any of those things are inexpensive, could
Yep.
maybe bring in some more revenue.
Yep.
And it sounds like we would have the space to put up something like that.
Yeah. As far as tennis goes, the only tennis courts that are really usable in town are up at the high school. There's tennis courts behind AD Gray. That's another discussion, but they were built with federal funds and are supposed to be kept up in good condition, and they haven't been. But I've been kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with the building before. I mean,
Right.
it's over $100,000 to renovate those tennis courts back to life. And is there, it doesn't have, they don't, the conditions with the grant money was that it just had to be open for recreation. It doesn't have to be tennis. So is tennis something really?
Yeah, it was purchased, I believe, by Land and Conservation Funds.
Yeah.
Which basically means through the end of time,
Yeah.
there's something has to be recreational based. Does it have to be the same activity? No, but it could never be sold back or put back onto the tax rolls.
Right.
And I don't know what that whole parameter,
It's just the tennis court.
it's just a tennis
Just the
court,
tennis
so.
court. And
Well, no, I mean, some of it, if it had, for example, if it had encompassed the 80 Gray School
Right.
and the ball field, that could never be redeveloped before, without
Right.
anything beside that.
yeah, the land,
LCWF or
Land
Lands and Conservation.
LWCF gave the town $5,000 in like 1973 to build those tennis courts. And they were bugging me about it last year, like, hey, we need to get these
$10,000.
back up and running. I'm like, hey, can we give you your $5,000 back? And they said no.
So what type of tennis courts were they? Hard true or just concrete, or what were they?
I believe they're like a concrete with like
Yeah.
a asphalt covering.
Yeah.
They're really located right there now, but
Yeah.
they're cracked and broken.
Yeah,
and
they were
it's
built right on
basically
top of a
every time.
drainage pipe from Ed Gray, so there's a big tar thing right through the middle of them, which would be the problem if you renovate with that location.
Right,
If you
if
build
you-
a new tennis court right there, eventually it's gonna happen again.
Right.
Unless you fix it. So, there's other options. We can move that property. It doesn't have to be right there, but it's a little bit more expensive to move it to a different place, and it would have to be somewhere new recreation. I can't move it and say, first base to second base at the rec fields is now that land.
It'd have to be,
Like, it has to
it'd have to be a property of the equal size that would be non-existing public recreation at this point.
Right.
So it'd require a purchase of property or a town property that.
We need somebody to give us a farm, I think.
I don't know, but it's
Donate a farm.
really hard to dump money into those tennis courts especially not knowing what's gonna happen to AD Gray, you know, if they,
Yeah.
if those,
You
those two
won't.
buyers, if anyone does buy it and there's something else in front of it, you know, I could see if, you know, if nobody buys it, it gets torn down and it does happen to be the site we choose for a recreation or community center, sure. That's a great spot for a tennis court, but if there's gonna be a business or community housing in front of it, maybe not, you know, so, yeah, so that's what's kind of been going on with the tennis.
So you're basically saying some more different program options, correct?
Well,
Not to-
I'm
not to
just thinking
generalize,
where,
there's-
you know, he said it kind of slows down in the summer, and those would be something that maybe he could extend the program or switch the program from 1:30 to 4 or something,
Oh, yeah.
adding maybe some of those things in there
Yeah,
and different people coming on
Not
board
making
to
it-
help. Yeah.
not extending summer rec to the end of the day, but offering different programs in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
it might.
But,
I got involved because I wanted to, I'm so pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, but I'm just very pleased with the amount of work that you are doing and the programs that are offered. But I wanted to try to see if I could help promote those so
Yeah.
that we could get better attendance. I have a feeling there's probably some people who still don't know those things. As hard as you're trying to get it out there, they don't read the paper, they don't get the school
Yeah.
emails, they don't know.
Right.
So I wanted to help with that, but I'd also really be interested in trying to find ways to bring seniors and kids together and to have activities that we can have cross-generational, because that's what our community is. Lincoln County is one of the oldest counties in the country.
Right.
So, that's not going to change anytime soon, so let's try to bring communities together and create more of a community, I guess.
right,
I have personally a lot of friends who are grandparents, but their grandchildren don't live here, and they would love to have adopted grandkids. And so even that's an opportunity to help get you some help with the summer programs, the summer camp.
yep,
You know, so that was my, I wanted to try to see what we have. I know that there's lots of ideas for things we could get. I'd like to see what we have, and I would like to try to find ways to volunteer to help to expand what we have to more people.
I think you're right in people don't know what we have.
Well,
I find that in other areas that I sit on, you know, people aren't aware that this is going on, or that even that clamming is the #1 industry in Waldeboro. I mean, you know, it's just, they don't read the paper.
people have, there's a lot going on. The people
There
have a
is.
lot going on, and they're focused on their families and trying to make rent and mortgage. So let's go to them. Let's not expect them to come to our communication methods. Let's go to them. We have to meet them where they're at. That's where I'm going with that. So, and I'm not just saying let's do it. I'm saying I'll help you. I'll volunteer to help do that. I'm not just going to give you a long list of things that you need to add to your to-do list. I want to help with
yeah.
that.
I get it out. I get it out a lot of ways, but I'm sure, like you said, even just putting flyers out, I don't go around town doing that.
Right.
I put it out in all the major ad places that I can.
Right.
And,
That's
you know,
not criticism of the way that
No,
you're
I-
doing it now. I'm
I
just
know.
saying,
that was my, when I got here, there was no Facebook page.
right.
That was one of the first things I added, was just ways to get people out. And it was funny because I brought it up to our tech guy. And this is a town Facebook page. He's like, yeah, you can just hop on and use mine whenever you want. He's like, I got 800 followers. I'm like, okay. And then I did that for a few days. I'm like, I just kind of want a Waldeboro rec Facebook page, because not all the people that go to the town want rec stuff, and a lot of my rec people aren't going to go to the town to look for information. And so I did it, and in like 2 days I had 200 followers, and he got nervous. He's like, you're going to catch me. But since then I think I'm sitting 250 to 300, but
Jim, you had something you
Yeah,
wanted?
I mean, again, this is, other people have done this. In your scenario, Troy,
Yep.
or in some of the scenarios you guys have been working in, what have you seen as being the top 3 methods of communicating with parents, kids about programs? Can we identify 3 or
seniors.
5 or what? I mean, because communication today is such a big part of everybody's life. Is it Facebook, or is it, you know,
Right, so.
I don't,
I mean, to answer some of that, and I'm not saying it's, just, you know, I think it's a combination of a lot of different activities. You know, electronically we can, but there are still a percentage of people that aren't electronically
Sure.
plugged in per se. But if you're looking at youth programs, most everybody at that age group, you know, I'd say a smaller percentage is not connected compared to an older generation. So you have school distributions, or you're passing things out in flyers to schools, to kids directly, assuming and hoping that they make them from their backpack back to mom and dad. And again, so there's another step. You know, there's also being able to go directly, you know, electronically. If you have social media, you know, more and more younger parents are on, I guess, Instagram and Snapchat and different things that are, you know, even my department, we still haven't quite ventured into, you know, but Facebook is for the 30 and 46 diagram is that. So, but, you know, we're getting younger parents that have younger
Right.
kids, they don't have a Facebook account, so you're missing them. You have a different generation that still goes and buys the paper and reads the paper and relies on that type of source. There's other people that drive by there and see the sign like, oh, discount tickets to Funtown and those type of activities. And then there's another chance of possibly like a presence at a voting booth, having a table and any public event where you could say these are our offerings, how could you get involved type stuff. So again, you know, it's a charge that the committee kind of has, and you can't just really, you know, what we don't want to come from this meeting is, okay, Marcus, your job just doubled, you know, but I think to have true growth, to get to a point where you could say, for sure, I want a building, and this is the case, there does need to be growth, and there does need to be those steps to get to that point. You know, and it can't just fall on that one person, but there are people that have talent in this town that can help, or either have time, or are retired professionals that would love to do something like that, but they don't necessarily always walk in the door and say, yeah, I want to do it. You know, sometimes it takes a, you know, I know this guy, I'll ask him, and
That's right.
maybe, you know, and for some people, they don't want to stick their neck out. So, I mean, obviously the people at this table have made the commitment to try to take that step, so. Ray, we haven't heard from you. Put you on the spot.
I agree with a lot of stuff that's being said. I just wrote down, you know, just having more activities. Maybe not actual programs for like a long period of time, but just maybe programs you have possibly like on a weekend. Like a 3-on-3 tournament. Stuff like that. In my experience, just getting our word out, we flooded with a lot of papers to different things, but we just showed up at places to say, hey, can I get 10 minutes to just talk to the people in this room about what we're doing or what we're trying to do
Yeah.
in different senses. You know, I think this town has a lot to offer. You know, my whole thing is community. This is where I'm going to be living for the foreseeable future. And, you know, I just want to be involved. I want to meet people, young people, old people, bring them together, like you said.
Sure.
You know, because that's community. Community's not just that small, that small thing. It's everyone. You know, I once went out to Waldeboro Days, and it was okay, but it seemed like it was more geared towards the younger. You know, not more for some of the older people and mature people, you know, just to come out. And, you know, I think one thing that possibly to bring the community out together is have like a field day, ending in, you know, whatever. I heard once before they used to have like what do they call it, a block party right down there across from what is it called, the Narrows.
Yeah,
But they don't do that anymore.
Street dance.
Yeah, the street dance.
Right.
They don't do
Somebody
that
used to
anymore.
play in that band, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I guess they don't do that anymore. But I mean, that's one way you bring people together.
They didn't do the street dance this year. They the last couple of years it's been over at the VFW the night before.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then we still have the music during Waldeboro Day. And I did hold an adult home run derby. So
That's awesome.
The street dance scenario in downtown became a real safety issue. Because, you know, you have to arrange traffic to go around that
Yeah.
downtown area.
Absolutely.
And if you set up a stage at the end of that block, and you have people coming from Friendship,
They can go 97.
they can.
Get out the way.
And that's what I'm afraid if they do go 97, and you know, you're trying to direct traffic, and it's like, oh my God. Someone, I mean, really, it's very, very dangerous. And I've done it for years, but, you know, it's gonna take time for people to get acclimated to going up to 80 Gray. But I think from the standpoint, if you look at how kids and families are enjoying that, it's a much better gig than downtown.
You mean Waldeboro Days? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, and the fireworks.
And the
it's a very nice
fireworks
little-
stuff.
Fireworks, yeah.
And it really depends on the day, unfortunately, if you have really hot weather,
Whether or not.
Yeah.
you know. And if it's a great day, people, they'll come see the parade, they go up and walk through a little bit, buy this or that, buy some food. And then they usually end up leaving,
Yep.
and then come back around 5:30, 6 o'clock, maybe get something to eat, or maybe just hang out, listen to some music, because there's always music at night, and then do the fireworks.
But I think, you know, not to speak for Ray, but I think it's just using that as an example, like, maybe there's, you know, like there's some communities that does like movies in the park. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or music
No, I
on the
don't
mall,
disagree.
like, and, you know, maybe that's somebody that, you know, you find that one person that has connections with bands or something that sets up, you know, somebody comes in once a month for the 3 months in the summertime, and then somebody
Oh, yeah,
that says,
stage right
okay,
there.
yeah, you know, and to make that a free event that somebody could come to, doesn't mean that everybody's gonna, but that's at least a starting point,
Yeah.
and those type of things. But again, I would really, before I'd say I charge you to do it, it would be finding that leader type person that can do 90% or 80% of the work, or setting it up, and then you help facilitate that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Well, there's also a budgetary issue as well, so.
Sure, yeah.
And what he was saying, some more like weekend activities or weeknight activities. They don't have to be programs that run for a
Yeah,
month or a
it could
month
just
and
be
a half.
one-offs.
Yeah, tournaments, anything.
Oh, there could be nature walks. I mean, they could be, I mean,
Yeah,
if you think,
anything.
again, thinking of things that could be cross-generational.
Yeah. Yeah, that has been one of the things I've been trying to do more of, you know. As far as youth sports go, I think we got it covered. Like,
Yeah.
we do a lot.
Oh, you do, you really do.
Adults, you know, I've been trying to add, I tried this past year, I've tried to add a few. I tried the soccer, it didn't work, adult soccer. Adult basketball was a hit. We did it for 5 or 6 weeks, and then Little League stole our gym. So we were kind of, we didn't have a facility, you know. And
Into
then,
that.
so what I've been trying to, we do the senior trip. I want to add more for seniors, maybe some active seniors, you know, pickleball or something. But I'm thinking, you know, my downtime is winter. As far as, you know, do something over the winter, but I don't have a place that we could do
Space.
pickleball. I can't go to the schools because
They're filled up with-
they're filled in the afternoon and the kids are there during the day. I can't go kick the phys ed teacher out of his gym. you know.
Damascata
Yeah,
has pickleball,
yeah,
the Y,
at the Y.
big pickleball.
Yeah,
And out
The
on
facility.
90, what is that?
pitch,
Yeah, the
pitch.
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 People play pickleball out there too.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
Oh, MRC.
MRC.
Oh,
does.
MRC.
Oh, MRC, yeah.
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 So are you
The
thinking
pitch
about
has a
putting together,
altar.
putting together a group of people a night, like you do with the Camden Bowl, except this time you might provide transportation? Is that what you're thinking of?
I hadn't
To
thought of
those,
that.
to those places
didn't-
that have it?
And I hadn't really thought about it that way. I was just trying to get it myself, but
Yeah.
I just
But if we
don't have a place.
if we don't
to
have
do
a facility, right,
Right.
so you could do sort of like what you're doing with the summer camp with the pool in Wiscasset.
it. Yeah, like,
But something along those lines, I mean, like, see if we could have access to those, what it costs to rent and people would pay.
yeah, I'd have to contact. I don't know how much they would charge. I don't know how much they charge, or if they'd give me a discount.
Mm-hmm.
What about the Baptist Church?
That's another
That's a huge
option that we've been.
facility.
We're starting to talk about it. The town manager, myself, she's brought it up to me a couple times. Since they've built their sanctuary and they're not using their gym
Gym.
as often.
Right.
That could be an option for us to use a little more. I haven't spoken with them yet, but it could be. I mean, it's a nice facility that we might be able to take advantage of
They
if
might
there's some
consider
openings.
it an outreach and be very grateful to
Good.
be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So
The other thing is that, like the VFW or the American Legion, maybe those can be utilized for some of the senior activities,
yeah.
whether it be mahjong, whether it be a whist tournament, whether it be cooking, because there is a kitchen down at the VFW. I mean, just,
Sure.
we have some stuff around us. It's just, how can we use it to our best advantage?
Right.
To at least try to encompass more people over and above the youth.
And here again, this isn't assuming that you haven't already thought of that or haven't
Oh,
already
sure.
tried to do it. It's
Yeah.
just kind of a, how can we
Yeah.
help you with that?
Right. I mean, what it keeps coming back to me is the need. Like, people tell me all the time, "Oh, we should do like a bingo night for seniors." You can drive to any VFW or Oddfellows Hall 2 or 3 nights
They already
every
have
night of the
that.
week. There's a
Yeah.
bingo.
Right, they already have
Like
them.
like
Right there
I
on
don't need
90.
to. Right. I don't need to do that.
91.
I was polling some of the other rec directors, like, what do you do with your seniors? Like, oh, we do like a monthly meal where we'll show up and people bring a potluck and there'll be some type of
Program or
meal or a
something.
program, and they eat and enjoy fellowshipping with each other,
Sure.
and that's what the senior citizens do twice a month, anyways.
Yeah.
But you have active, I was told,
It's different.
we have active seniors, and then we have
Right. No, I get.
seniors.
Right.
Well, the
So there's different stuff.
generational, what is that down in Damascata? It seems to have speakers and
Yeah.
the older what is
I don't
that
know.
called?
Spec, Is it Spectrum?
Spectrum?
Spectrum Services. I know
Yeah,
they do. Is
yeah.
that the place?
Right, that's what
I don't know what that is.
yeah.
Sure.
That's-
Trevor, I just don't want to hear from you, maybe, and then we'll kind of wrap this up and then maybe take some action steps so we can either include this a little bit and then come back with, a plan. But Trevor, do you have anything you'd like to add, or I'm not to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, no, I got involved because I've been working with Marcus for his whole career now, Little League and soccer and all that, and I do feel like we have the youth sports thing covered. And I was just more like, what does the town or the community need? I think youth sports certainly plays a role in that, but it certainly doesn't fit, doesn't complete the picture. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of opportunity with respect to not just improving community, but improving the lives of community members. But there's opportunity for it. So, it's not, and like I said, it's not going to be youth sports. That's going to be the single answer to that. Like all the ideas are great. And how do we just make more of that happen and just get it started? I just feel like it's going to start small and slow. And we have there's a foundation, right? I mean, with the program, it's not just youth sports. Right. It's kind of like a little bit of a myth, that's Marcus's job is to run Little League. It's not.
I don't run Little League.
Nope. But it's a big help. But I think there's a lot. The bus trips are interesting. I think there's huge opportunity for senior stuff. We have a great little library in town. We have some neat spaces in town. When you talk about all the things that go into a community center, I think a lot of those areas are available. The timing may not be great in the availability, but
Right.
there are spaces available. So as far as doing things to, I love the idea of a community center. I wish 80 Gray made sense and it fell into our laps because, the whole town went to school there, and it's still got a place in everyone's heart, I don't necessarily see that working out, but that's too bad. You see what the Han Center is to Friendship,
Right.
You see what, the VFW hall gets used for lots of things, so.
All right, so I think just to generalize, you know, what we obviously covered a lot. You know, we're going on to, you know, an hour and 40 minutes or whatever. So, I mean, I think these conversations are had throughout the town, and obviously in different meetings, committees, and just, you know, at Moody's Diner when they want to talk about recreation. This is what I'd like to see. I think we brought up some key points of that we need to come up with some sort of tool, survey or whatnot, to try to get a full pulse of what recreation means to the Waldoboro citizen and what they would like to see or what they don't like, or, you know, some sort of tool. I'm not, so I think for next meeting, we either come up with some of those survey questions, or we do some research to try to find, you know, somebody that maybe have already polled their community, you know, similar, and I can help with that as well. So we could kind of fine tune that and maybe shoot for maybe having that ready to go, and have, if it's, I don't know if it's legal, if we can actually be in the polling facility
I think you have to be outside.
and, or for right outside and passing those out, or however that works, but we could look into that. I mean, that'd be a great opportunity to get the public that comes in and votes to at least fill out our survey, as well as sending it through schools and then getting those back, and, you know, it's a process. You know, and then I think from that point on, we could say, okay, well, let's dissect this winter programs that we currently offer, and, you know, what around the table do we think needs to be done, and how can we help, or, you know, and all those type of things. I mean, for us to come, we could come out here every month and go around and around of what we'd like, but, you know, I think important is, one, determining what the problem is or what the need is, and then coming up with a plan to get there. And I think that's kind of our charge as well, besides obviously the direct charge of the community center, because I think that's kind of putting the cart a little bit ahead of it. I mean, I know there's a facility at 80 Gray that needs to be utilized and used, but those are kind of steps I think we need to take. The more pressing thing would be if we did want to, or if you did want to, I can get you what we used to use as far as getting it to the schools, and if you can get permission to do that, I think it would be a good opportunity for you to get information that the school isn't gonna easily give out, as far as,
Right.
you know, they can choose to opt out and not turn it in, but if they turn it back in, at least there's that information that you could work with, like, oh, I got this many kids that are interested in soccer. And then when you get registrations and you only got 22, like, I can cross-reference it and say, oh, well, these 14 kids still haven't done it.
Yeah.
You can either, you know, email them, call them, or whatever, and they can
Right.
say, oh, we changed our mind, and so be it. But
So, I'm sorry, and going down through actions, we need a tool or survey or something to survey Waldoboro residents, what recreation means to them, what would they like, and then coming up with some kind of contact form that could be distributed with the schools? Is that what you're, is that another one?
unfortunately, the timing of this meeting and the start of school is like 4 days. So.
Yeah.
So it would probably be something, if Marcus deemed feasible for this calendar year, he would.
Yeah.
We'd have to leave it up to Marcus to determine what the
I mean,
best
I can
thing
try
would
to,
be.
I try to whip something up Thursday, Friday this week, and
I do
get it
know
out
some
with my
communities
soccer
that
stuff.
do it, so I could
Yeah.
help you get that.
Yeah, just whatever, you know, get my programs on there, and name, email, phone number, and what you might be interested in.
Yeah.
So,
If that's something that you print up, I mean, like I said, I'm happy to take stacks of those flyers around to businesses and say, hey, can we put these here? We're trying to get, I mean, whatever you print up, if it's not just targeted just at kids' sports, I'm happy
yeah.
to share it. I'm happy to help you distribute it.
I mean, I would think, you know, Hannaford's has done that sort of thing,
was
stuffed
just
it
thinking
in the
of
bags.
yeah,
Stick it on the Hannaford
And the
door.
Waldoboro Library, you know, could have it out there, as
Right.
well as the Friendship and the other libraries
Yeah.
yep,
around.
The farmer's market is another good place to try to reach
Yep.
people too, so.
Well,
I think we also need to publicize the fact that this committee has been charged, if you will, with doing something about recreation for the community.
So talk to us.
You know, and because this has been going on for a long time.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, okay, you know, then the why came in. It's just been, it seems like the community said, oh yeah, they're gonna do this again. I think we need to really emphasize that this is a push from the Selectmen's Board as well as the people that have been selected on this committee to see this through, one way or the other. Either we go forward with, obviously, increasing our, developing our programs for the kids and community, seniors, everybody, and with the idea, ideally, to have a place that we can call a community center.
Recreation
You know,
center.
recreation center. Because you know, this has been going on for a long time, as we all know.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been around the horn. How do we differentiate ourselves from the last committee or the last push,
Right.
you know? So, you know, it's real important that people understand that, you know, this is hopefully for real. Because, oh, here we go again.
No, I think, I mean, I'm trying to think, you bring up a good point of communicating who we are, what we hope to achieve, you know, and sharing that out.
Right.
You know, obviously, there's ways to do that, you know, whether we have presence in the paper or if we have, you know, our social media. Should there be a place on the town website under recreation that lists, has a paragraph and lists, you know, the people at this table in an email, or, you know, if they want to communicate and reach out to us, because
Right.
obviously we all have connections in the community that are different than and they don't all cross over. So
Does the website get a lot of action?
I think a fair amount, but I'm not sure.
I mean,
I'm
do
not sure
people
what the
go there
audience
for
is.
information to see what's happening in Waldeboro? I think I've gone there once.
Yeah.
I go there for meeting
What's that?
minutes and
Yeah.
things like that, but,
Yes.
or to see if roads are closed or
Yeah,
whatever, but
I
in
don't
the
know.
wintertime.
I don't. Outside of hearing that my job was open and looking on the website to find an application, I don't know that I ever went to the town website
Soccer forms are on there.
before. Well, yeah, but I never. That soccer league started when I was in 4th grade, and it was Friendship, Waldeboro, and Warren. We had 3 games. You know, there was no registration. It was, hey, you're playing. So yeah, I never, like, even some of my like friends from Friendship that aren't that much younger than me, but just enough. They're like, oh yeah, we grew up going to Kyle's office to hand in stuff. I'm like, I never did that once in my life, because I mean, what was it, 2008, 2009? He became the recreation
Was
director,
that when that started?
and I was in college by then. So I didn't grow up doing it. So I think, yeah, the first time I ever went to the town website was to apply for my job.
Well, we could certainly use the website and the Facebook page, the recreation Facebook page, but also the town's Facebook page to begin to collect suggestions and information. So would it make sense to create some kind of electronic, very short, very brief survey with questions that we would all agree, just as a basic foundation? This is not scientific, but just to kind of start to gather some information, and also to gather people who might be willing to volunteer to help do some of this stuff. Would there be, I mean, SurveyMonkey is free. I mean, I'm happy to set something up like that. And then we could have the printed version, things that we hand out if we do a table at the election day, or if we go to the farmer's market, it would have the exact same questions. So we're collecting the same information. Is that
I mean, I don't know.
is that an actionable item that makes sense?
I would say that, I guess, you know, obviously not knowing how this group will work together would just be, and, you know, I'm just finding out I'm taking this role.
Congratulations again.
I didn't know had the conversation with my boss, but that's fine. I'm more than willing to help out, you know, but the key is, the action step would be, are we charging somebody on this group to find this, or are we charging the director to come up with this item, or?
Well, I mean, I'm actually offering.
Okay. if you-
I'm
yeah.
offering to do this in conjunction with Marcus and with all of you and with the select committee. Are we supposed to have a representative from the select board on that? Okay.
I don't think so.
But to have, short questions, just to get us started, so we know where to go. I mean, this is not scientific. This may be the information that we need to justify hiring some company to come in and do some kind of larger survey. I'm happy to, but I don't want to come up with the questions on my own.
No.
Right.
So, right now, Kelly has offered to take the lead in working with the director in coming up with a preliminary questions for a survey, greater survey.
I'll go back to the foundation.
Yep.
And see what we have from years past and maybe dovetail some of that stuff in.
I mean, information that you've collected
That
already.
we've either
Yeah,
collected or some of the questions that we had
that would be
answered
great.
way back when.
That would be great to help inform
I'll
the
have to talk
questions
with
to ask
John
now.
Blamey.
Okay.
So-
And I'm gonna call the guy at Gunnison, Colorado, who has gone through this process and put up a rec center. And it was a bond issue and things.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanna see how they originally started finding out the community center. So I'm gonna call him and see,
The more information we
Yeah.
get, the better.
yeah. But I think, I don't know this gentleman's name down here, but maybe he could take a picture and put a thing in the paper announcing this committee and who they are and talk to us.
We need to get everybody's email address too. I assume
have
that's.
it.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
And can you forward it, or is it's on one of the,
Yeah, forward it to all of us.
yeah,
Yep.
and telephone numbers,
And whether we want text or email,
Okay.
or both.
Or both.
or both.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Not me.
But, yeah, this is another cart before the horse, but Max, do you want to, not now.
Wait till his mouth is open.
Do you want to,
Let us get together, not.
do you want to
just
talk
be-
Do
about,
you not want to look like you're
Sure.
active and busy in the
Yeah, that's fine.
do you want to talk about the grant that you got us?
Right. Ask Grant.
So we have money already.
So
And I apologize.
Bearing
Yeah.
the lead,
Sorry.
we have money.
This is Max Johnston. He's the planner, the town planner.
Oh,
yes.
I thought it was from the paper.
I did
I
too.
did too. Sorry.
Nah. Although I do look similar to the guy who.
You do, actually, because I thought you were too. He's been here before. Is it
Yeah.
Johnson or Johnston? I'm sorry.
Stone.
Johnston.
Oh, Johnstone.
Sorry, my bad.
I thought you said Max. Okay.
It is Max.
Yeah, Max Johnson.
Max Johnston.
Max Johnstone.
But
Gotcha.
anyways, you care more about the money. So, back in, I think, May, Lincoln County Regional Planning has this grant called the Ask Grant. Essentially, it's up to $2,000 to do sort of a planning stage type thing. And you guys got the full 2,000 amount for any architecture-related items to the plans you already have for updates. So if you want to shrink it down to the bare minimum, or you want to try and expand it to Taj Mahal, then you have 2,000 to make such changes.
Oh, for the rec center.
The rec center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Or
for
any
arch-
recreation facility, pretty much.
but for it's for architecture, and it has to be used by when?
I'll
is-
double check with them. I think it has to be by the end of the year, but it also might just be.
I mean, really.
I mean, to be fair, I got this grant way back when this was starting, so
Yeah.
I didn't know how long it would take for the community to be formed and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you
the
need
the
to see
select board.
if you could get an extension for us.
I'll see what I can do, because it might be to the end of the year, it might be the end to the next fiscal year, so
Right.
which
Yeah.
would be big. But
It was right around, he got it right around the time the select board, the select board decided we needed this committee. He got the grant, and then it was like, we kept taking applications, and it was a good 2 or 3 months before we had all of us.
And who was it from?
Lincoln County Regional Planning.
So I wonder if they're on a regular fiscal year, July 1st to June 30th.
And that's,
So then we'd have.
and that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Let's say end of the year,
So, yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
get clarification. Yeah.
but yeah, I just thought everyone should
Okay.
know about that. It's-
So Max, if you could look into that, that'd be important information for us to know. And then maybe we could look at those plans and reach out to the architect to see what $2,000 would even allow us to do.
Yeah.
And
Probably
obviously
sign
that's-
his name.
it sounds like a great amount, but
Yeah.
how you could break it up, or even if we just got updated costs that were related to 2018 compared to 2008, that would be something that would probably cover it
I
under
didn't
that scope.
expect to
Or can we
mention-
turn it back in and ask for it at another time?
They do it yearly.
I mean, if we don't use it, it goes to waste, or it goes back in
That
the
just
pot?
goes back to their budget, and they're like, "Hooray, we saved $2,000."
Well, maybe the other question to ask, can it be kept in like escrow or whatever
Yeah.
by the town?
You mean?
I don't think they
No,
give us,
which-
I don't think they give us a check, do they? They
Yeah,
How does it work?
Once
What-
we have the plan ready, then they sort of give us the check when we
Okay, so,
have it going.
and it's specifically for architectural,
Specifically for designing
Design,
the community
okay.
facility.
all right.
Sounds good. So you'll find that information out and pass it on to Marcus, who will then get that to us and then see that would either speed up our timeline, or we'd know that we have till possibly June 30th if it was a fiscal. I mean, again,
December 31st would be tough.
it would be very tough, but again, we'd take a look and maybe since
I will.
you never know, sometimes they'll roll over or they'll
Right.
put it back in with an earmark for the next year, that you would reapply for that grant. It does happen. I would also recommend maybe sending like a paragraph or two about like a quick bio, or why you're involved with this, and that we could share on our Facebook, like Beat the Rec Committee. I don't think that'd be a bad thing. Like, okay, grew up here. This is my background. This is what I want to do. Contact me for.
No, that's a great idea. You could
just to push it out there. I mean,
You could do it one a week, and then you could link to this survey thing that we're going to do to push that out every week.
Yeah,
Right.
it wouldn't hurt.
So that's a third action item. I've got 2 action items so far. I'm gonna work with Marcus on coming up with some survey questions and work with you guys. Karen's gonna check with her contact in Colorado to find out what they did before they launched their community center. You want us to send?
Recreation center.
Recreation center. I keep calling it
And
community
I'd like
center.
each member to, between now and the
Bios.
next, to send a bio to Marcus or to the group. And then possibly with a Photoshop, a headshot or whatever.
headshot.
So we can put that on social media and or the website, depending on who mans or who runs, who updates the website.
Yeah, Mark's
Liam does.
Okay, so
So that's 3 action items. Were there others?
can't think of any.
For the committee, not for you.
When is our next meeting?
So that would be the next item to discuss, would be what works best for the group. I'd recommend probably a once monthly meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's what I had envisioned as far as my committee.
Yeah, that was my plan. I didn't know if right now, if we wanted to do one, like another one in 2 weeks, and then another one in 2 weeks, and then go monthly, like to get stuff going. If that's a lot, then we can just go with monthly. I didn't know if there was a lot we needed to get done right away, or
It'd be nice to be able to get the survey out before a month.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we need to meet in person to
Right.
just, that's certainly something that can be shared with everybody by email.
Again, I'm
I
not,
think monthly's good.
I think monthly is
Okay.
probably fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it comes quicker than you think.
Yeah.
For me,
middle of soccer
the
season.
fourth Wednesday of every month works good. I don't know if that works good for you
So
guys.
that'd be the 26th of September?
Just make sure I don't have a game.
I missed my softball game tonight. Yeah,
I mean, it is.
What
what-
about the
coach then.
19th, just to
probably make that work. I had
kind
one
of get it
someone
going
ask
a little
already.
faster here?
Can't remember who.
On the third Wednesday of every month, I have my rec committee meeting,
Can't you
in
change
Brunswick,
that?
so
I mean,
I cannot not.
Action item, talk to Brunswick, give them
I
Tuesday,
actually,
the rec
get-
committee
I
meetings.
get, I will be getting paid for that one, so I will not be
Oh.
able
Seems
to.
like the action items that we have here we can share that electronically, I think. So if we didn't meet again to the 26th, we'd actually have some results of stuff to actually discuss then, I think.
Okay, so our meeting's at 6 o'clock?
Is that what you said, the fourth Wednesday?
If that works,
I'm
that's what's on
look-
the table.
Looking at the calendar for this meeting room, the
Yep.
fourth Wednesday is always open, so that might work really well for us.
Okay.
And if 6 o'clock works for everybody, that's fine with me.
So I think if we kind of plan on that, and then obviously there'll be some months where it may fall, like December could fall closer to the holiday, we just adjust it, and or table,
Yeah.
just don't meet that month.
All right, so September 26th.
But 6 o'clock is about the earliest I can do.
Yeah. One other action item, I think, and this one is for you, Marcus,
thanks.
to share names, phone numbers, and email addresses with everybody in a
Okay.
form or something.
He already said he'd do it.
Cell phones,
Okay.
or is that way we can text too?
Why don't you guys give me 1 minute and I will
Oh,
run back to my office. I
okay.
have
I do too.
I have it,
I didn't know, I didn't have faces or names to it, so.
So, Jim, I played, well, when Jim used to play volleyball with us, your son, Jim,
Oh, yeah.
played volleyball with
Oh,
us.
you
Get all those
Warren?
colors on your calendar.
Yeah.
It's how I color code, and I can tell what I have to do for work, what I have to do for
I know, but how
my
did you
volunteer
do
stuff.
that?
When you
Well,
create
we'll
an
start
event,
next
this is
Tuesday.
in Google Maps, when you
Because they
create an
came
Oh,
out
event.
it's in Google Maps.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use that because we have a family calendar that a lot of the kids use too.
Yes,
would,
what?
Anyway,
Yeah,
you
but we
can
got a new
change
principal
the
with
color.
that.
Southern Illinois University, Carbondale.
But it's Justin.
Oh, really?
Justin
Yeah?
Kangas.
Yeah, we've had that
His-
since
How
they
did
were-
you,
my daughter's age, and-
end up
I met a
mid-coast
girl.
Walls?
So that
I met a
even though
girl.
they're out of the house.
That's usually how they
they're
start.
They
still-
don't look at it anymore,
not
but
with
Hub and I
that girl,
put,
but
you know, they're,
we have two
when they were in
bunch of
college,
women,
no,
so-
Madeline's out now, but I mean, we put in there what
I
dates
was
they're out of
living in
college, and
Portland.
there's two
Yeah.
pictures, their
I
winter
mean,
breaks, we keep
Hockey
Max hockey,
games,
Moving
Max
yeah,
hockey
place
yeah,
close to
schedule
the
is
boys,
on
I just
there.
happened to meet. I love
But
the
when they
girls.
were little, I actually shared it with your mother too, because we had to coordinate
so-
picking up, and that
Here
was
was-
a lot of what was on there, so.
Yeah, so they went to high, they were in high school.
I mean, I like the
See, that's
town
another
and,
thing for
you know,
seniors.
for some reason, I'm seen to be liked everywhere I go. I walk to all these places.
Little course on
So you feel welcome?
No, I very much so.
I think we need
Very,
to
very
talk-
much
I
so
think
and
one of the
stuff.
questions that
The library
committee,
I mentioned.
well, one of the things that
That's it.
the
I
committee
mean,
needs to
you
talk
know,
about
So
is
we were
how we
talking at the
define
lunch line, he goes,
Are we
he
only
goes, we came
defining
up to me
recreation
afterwards.
Yeah, I
as
work.
physical activity?
I actually
Sorry,
work.
yeah.
I didn't think so,
Yeah.
but that's not clear
Somebody
to
was
me, so.
involved.
Yeah, so I'm working on getting, moving, transferring possibly
Exactly.
to either
I would agree with that.
Augusta
Yeah,
or,
But I
I
wanna-
mean, that's.
But that's one thing.
But I hope
I've
that's
been
what
very
everybody-
curious about.
because I work for Social Security.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Paul actually got involved.
I don't know if that's a rec activity, but
No.
I can hold court
Yeah,
with the old folks say, look, this is what you need to do.
And he kind
But,
of.
Yeah, see, I
Well, I
think
think
of,
I
he said
spent-
the whole.
That'd
that's
be
not,
good.
yeah, seriously, that's not the
I've
the
been
connotation I
involved-
have is a
involved,
positive one.
you know,
It's,
just with
when I think of
different stuff.
recreation center, I think
You know,
of
most
gym.
of my stuff having to do with,
And I don't think of
you know,
arts and
college
crafts, and I
age.
don't think of a
And,
program
you
where you
know,
can teach someone how to do different things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
When I think of community center, I think
did,
of community building.
athletic
But I,
marketing
you know, it's just,
for,
it's just how I see it.
And everyone went to school
and,
there.
Apparently not
So
how.
it's South
you'd be
But
surprised.
you already printed out and everything.
Basketball
Are you
game for our
kidding me?
women's team.
Because honestly, when I told Paul, my gut,
200 people in the crowd.
my gut, I think about Walmart.
3 hours
Community
later,
center or something.
after their game,
I think VFW.
standing room,
Yeah.
11,000 people for the men's game. It's like, geez, you know, what's going on here?
And then,
So this is the contact list they gave me. It has names, addresses, phone numbers, and
Hey, you're from
email.
Friendship.
Yeah. But I work here.
Oh, okay.
we won't hold that against you.
The
Now, are
rest
these-
of my
Ray, you're a
telephone
third. Do you
number
have a fourth?
here.
So, yeah, some of them are incomplete.
Yeah.
Like Karen's phone number.
Okay, the last three digits are 7488. 488 needs to be added there.
488.
Now you know I'm
That's
gonna
my
call you now,
cell.
Karen.
Sure.
This is how you doing every day.
And the last digits of mine are 9721, so 721.
1.
Okay. I think those were the only two that got.
Trevor,
That's
207.
It's
207.
207.
Yeah, it's 207.
Yeah, we're the only ones with away area codes.
So is
I'll
there?
give you my cell
I'm from
phone.
away.
Are you really? Okay.
Oh, so Jim.
You just have a
Jim's
look.
cell.
Jim's. So it's-
Cell is 832
Yeah.
Is
1331.
this all contact information you don't mind having recorded?
Oh, good Lord.
1-3 what?
Do you want me to just get the recording now, or?
Yeah.
Do we want to adjourn the meeting? Are we done?
So, I take a motion
I'll
to,
motion to adjourn.
and okay, a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, so we are now adjourned and we will meet.
Before I hit the record button, want to start talking about your social security numbers? And everything?